instructor. I help people get out of pain in their body by doing online one-on-one sessions with fascial treatments and Scaravelli yoga, therapeutic yoga. I'm currently in London, and I have been sharing a few sessions with men in their 30s who are very fit. They do Muay Thai and they go around hiking in Uganda and they run long distance, but they experience a lot of tightness in their lower back. So their lower back is constricted, and this is creating a problem for them to have control and movement in their lower spine. They're locked up here. And I just want to share with others what that means in terms of your spinal health and nervous system and your availability to move through your core. Because tightness in the lower back will compromise your core and your capacity to stabilize while standing over your 2 feet. By the way, I have a great view. And the reason I'm doing this session now is just because I want you to enjoy the view. So one of the guys, both of them are in their early 30s, 32 and 34. And one of them is really functional, incredible alignment from the waist up, but from the waist down, he has a tendency to shift his pelvis forward, to spread his legs. He works from home, so he's either sitting on his chair and working on his computer, or he's standing up on one of those desks that rise and working like this. But he has a tendency, his compensation pattern is that he spreads his legs, shifts his pelvis forward, locks up his glutes, and he's like this. Actually, his upper back is quite good, but he's still like locked forward. That means that his glutes are working extra hard to stabilize him. Instead of finding his alignment by dropping the weight through the bones of his body, he's using muscles to stabilize himself in an upright position. And the problem with that is that when you overwork muscles, they tend to get tired and locked up short. So if your glutes are locked up short, guess what? Those glutes start to pull on your lower back muscles and they start to tighten up too. When your lower back muscles tighten up, your psoas is contracting and you tend to lose the capacity of your deep abdominal muscles to support your spine. So you're kind of even your belly might go forward because this is constricted and it's pushing against the wall of the belly. So the belly is working until it's like, well, I give up and I'm gonna let go. And that is a problem because if you lose core availability, and I don't mean a six-pack, I don't mean that your core is constantly working and it's super tight in the superficial muscles, because that will make your lower back tight also. One of the guys actually had this problem. But the other one, he's so tight here that his belly, even though he does crunches, he cannot regain front of core stability because he's working against the tightness of his psoas muscle, contracting his lower back. So this is an exercise that shows us to what extent we have availability to differentiate our movements in our spine and our lower back. So if you're on your back, you can try this with me if you want to. But basically what I'm doing is I'm using my fingers and I'm kind of giving a little bit of pressure on my pubic bone. So I'm allowing for myself to tuck and tilt from my lower spine. I'm not using my ribs to do this. So I'm not making the move from the higher parts of my spine. I'm just doing it, tucking and tilting allowing for mobility in my lower spine. This is where my neural core is. If I don't have availability there, it means that my psoas is so locked up that I'm moving as a block. So I'm like taking my whole body with me. I don't want that. I want to, oh, actually that hurt me just showing it. I also don't want to be pushing into my feet and engaging the glutes to move my lower spine. I just want to find the deep stabilizing muscles of my spine that are free enough. What does it mean, free enough? It means that you're not locked short. I'm not in a perpetual tuck position, which one of the guys, he's perpetually tucked. His glutes are constantly working. So he doesn't actually know what it means to relax the glutes and to find stability for his core through movement here. So I was like, okay, let's try this. Let's breathe in, breathe out, relax the diaphragm, ground our rib cage, relax the head. You can make a few turns in your head. And then try to put your hands on your pubic bone and try to tilt and tuck from your deep stabilizing muscles. It's a very small movement. And if you don't have availability and hydration in the deep core muscles, you're not going to be able to do it. But for sure, people have at least some movement. And for these two guys, there was no movement. I'm like, tuck and tilt, press on your fingers, nothing was happening. I asked them to put their hands on their pelvis so that they can more easily manipulate the bone of the pelvis, and it was still not happening for them. So they are really locked up in their lower back. So what this is telling me is that they have compression in the vertebra of their lumbar spine, and they don't have availability, mind to body connection with the small muscles in their pelvic floor. Now we do want that. This is like essential for walking, not just for walking, but for all sorts of rest, digest, and procreate activities, but walking is one of them. So you want to be able to not just walk by hinging in your lower back. You don't want to be like doing the movement from your QLs. You want to be able to step, ground, release here, engage through your body, through your core, so that you can make the next step. So you have availability. It's kind of it's mobility that is there for you to allow you to move through all the joints of your body so that you're not doing it only from one joint in your lower back. You have to be able to go through the pelvic floor with the pelvis hanging down and not extending in your lower back, because that actually starts to compress the vertebra and it starts to create problems for the health of your nervous system, your ability to stabilize with the core. So for this kind of problem, you can do something that's very simple to unlock a little bit the stiffening in the fascia. So your fascia is so stiffened in the pelvic floor that you've dehydrated the muscles. So right now I'm on my heels and I'm rocking through my heels. If you're very stiff in the lower back, you might rock like kind of push without the movement undulating through your body. So you might want to bend your knees a little bit so you don't, if your hamstrings are very stiff, it might like lock you up additionally. But this is an exercise that I would recommend for anyone who has stiff lower back. And if it's too painful because you're super hyperextended and you're doing it and you're hitting into your lower back, then bend your knees and rock here. But you want to allow that to activate a bit through your whole spine and move your head. So this is a very simple yoga pose where it's called the bridge pose, but it's the beginning of the bridge pose is actually a tuck. So your ability to move from the lower spine and lengthen through the spine is part of any yoga practice. So what we do in Scaravella yoga is we breathe in, we breathe out, we ground. I let all of this weight of this bone ground through the floor. This allows for my pelvis to tuck, lengthen my lower back. It lengthens it, so it releases the tissue, the fascia there. And then I also receive a lengthening in the neck. So I'm breathing in, breathing out, grounding in my heels, tucking, lengthening my spine, and it lengthens in my neck. Now, if I want to continue, this will go into a bridge. But if you don't have availability to tuck, then all you might be doing is pushing with hyperextension, and that's not doing you any favors. So I would just like try to breathe and find heel drop, pelvis tuck. I would do the heel rock to inject a little bit of vibration in your fascia to try to break up the adhesions. You can do it. You can also like do a little bit of rocks for yourself sideways. Breathe in, breathe out, relax. Feel the ground, feel the head on the ground, feel your heels on the ground. So start doing a bit of grounding, invite breath in your core. What I noticed is that one of the guys, when I asked him to breathe, he was breathing up in the chest, but there was no breath going up to the pubic bone, and you should be able to breathe into your hand actually here. You should be able to breathe vertically into the hand and into the collarbone, as well as stimulate the core front and back and sideways. Yeah, actually, this was just an excuse to share this amazing view out there. But I hope this is helpful and gives you a bit of thought as to what you're doing with yourself. Do you want to? So one of the guys went to the NHS physio, and what they gave him is to do, so he does it religiously. He does twists here with a locked up lower back. So he's not actually lengthening his lower back to do the twist. And then he does bridge poses where he's like tightening his glutes, over tightening them. They're already tight, so he actually has to undo a bit of the tension so that the muscle can find pulsation and it's not locked short, because that will just tighten the lower back and constrict the vertebrate spaces even more. And then he also does, what are these called? Squats. He does squats, but he does it basically with his compensation pattern. So he goes down, but without releasing his sit bones don't open here. His adductors don't switch on. So he's just squeezing down and squeezing up, squeezing down and squeezing up. So I don't know what that's doing for him, because it's not releasing his lower back. He's not finding length. Even if you just breathe here, breathe into your pelvis space. Put your hand on your pubic bone and on your tail and try to breathe into your pelvis. Imagine how your diaphragm is going down, pushing on the organs. The belly might come out, but also feel how your pelvic floor is like releasing a bit and coming up. Releasing a bit and coming up. You want this pulsation to come back into your body, because if you're super tight here, it might give you the sensation that you have some strength, but you're exhausting yourself because the muscles are constantly on. And a muscle which is constantly working is a tired muscle. It's a weak muscle. It looks like it's strong because it's contracted, but you want it to also relax, lengthen, rest before it contracts again. Everybody needs to go through the cycle of breathing, of engaging and releasing and resting. So that's the autonomic nervous system. This is your neural core. It's actually a stress response. So these men need to find a way to be a little bit more vulnerable and allow themselves to be supported by the ground, to rest, to undo the tension in their psoas, which is the muscle that is holding in front of your T12 vertebrae. It goes down and then over your pubic bone and attaches to your sit bone, so that when you're lifting so that you are actually coordinating your upper and lower body. So it's keeping you upright. But if it contracts too much, like when we're sitting, it might be in a constant contracted position, and then it locks up short, so that when you get up, you're too tight here. And your belly muscles get weakened because your whole body is pushing towards the front. I don't know if this is helpful for anyone, but I enjoyed doing it, and have a lovely day. If anyone needs any fascia hydration, I'm online and I work with these rollers, which are fabulous. This is the half roller from the Melt Method, Sue Hitzman. I had a scholarship. I studied with her. I've been melting for 2 years and I love it. It's brought back, it's released my psoas tension, which I struggled with for a long time. And it was stress that I received through emotional stress that I experienced, but some people experience it through repeated stress injury, like sitting at a desk or standing up all day for a job. That is also a lot of stress for your psoas, and it can dehydrate the tissues. And then instead of gliding and sliding, they start like adhering to each other. And then you get locked up in your spine. When the spine gets locked up, the brain starts noticing it and it says, there's something wrong. I can't feel that part moving. I feel that's not okay. It sends stress hormones into your body. And then you tighten even more. The muscle starts tightening even more because the stress response pushes us towards a fight or flight nervous system setup. And we don't want that. We want to be able to rest and digest. And that's really what people like me who work with the autonomic nervous system. I'm a movement specialist, but I work with the nervous system. I don't work on your muscles. You can go to the gym for that. That's not my specialty. I think it's important to learn to undo tension in your nervous system through movement and breathing. Thank you for listening. Bye.